Welcome, everyone, to our Week 10 Football Officials Educational video for the 2025 season. Hard to believe we've been through 10 weeks already, but here's our Week 10 video. Got another week of a lot of great plays. Thanks, everyone, for watching last week's video, hitting the like button, and the additional subscribers. Here we go. Let's get into our Week 10 plays for this week so that we can learn and improve and get ready for our upcoming games. First play this week is a really great play to take a look at and be prepared for. So we're going to focus on our eligible wide receiver here I've highlighted, and then our ineligible lineman I've highlighted. And we see the quarterback throw a pass to our eligible, who pitches the ball backwards, to our lineman, who scores a touchdown. So key here is a couple of things. First of all, the ruling in this play on the field was that this eligible receiver I've highlighted here goes downfield and catches a legal forward pass. After the catch, then passes it backwards or laterals it backwards to the ineligible lineman, and then the results are a touchdown. Now, the key is that they ruled this a catch right here, because if we change this up, let's say we don't rule this a catch, but we rule that the eligible receiver batted the ball backwards, would we still have the same ruling on the field as a legal play? No. It would be illegal touching by the lineman because the ball is still a pass. It has not been touched by anybody other than the offense, has not been touched by B or the defense. So in that scenario, this would not be legal. We'd have illegal touching and should have a marker down the field. But as this crew did on this game, they ruled it a catch, backwards pass, and a touchdown. Good job by the crew. They ruled it correctly, especially when they ruled this a catch. This was all legal. Good job. Way to stay focused. Way to stay on top of the play. And way to get the ruling correct on the field. Play 2 here we're going to see is one of those plays where we just don't have it written in the mechanics manual, or we just don't have an exact game plan to officiate a play like this. And our focus will be on the offensive and defensive player that I've highlighted here. And you're going to see they come down, and this is important where they get engaged at. They engaged first contact. It's right between the 10 and 11 yard line. And we'll come back to that here as this play develops. So they're engaged at 10, 11 yard line. And our line judge is the only one on the sideline, 5-person crew, right? So our line judge here is avoiding those two players as they go by them. Now, line judge can't stop and, come back to that, because the line judge has sideline responsibility, as he's the only sideline official on this side. And he's got to be looking down that line to be able to see this action and in and out of bounds. So those two players go by our line judge. And then you're going to see, as this play continues, we're going to see our line judge here put a marker down on the field. And notice his marker ends up finally on around the 6 yard line. Now, I believe from looking at this, the call was holding, but if I'm thinking correctly, I could be wrong, but I think if we're calling that holding, we were calling that holding on those two players engaged between the 10 and 11 yard line. So that means we need to pick this flag up after the play and move it back to the spot to get proper enforcement. But we come back to this, our line judge is coming up, get spot, but we still have those two players engaged with each other, and they're out basically on the track area, lane 1. So the question is how do we cover this? How do we get this? Who can get this? And as I look at this, we've got our back judge on the goal line, which is important. The only official that could really help immediately is our referee, who will have to pick this up behind the line judge, because our line judge has to continue to go down, get the spot, and make sure there's no action there. And in a 5-person crew, this really stretches us. But this is where we have to adapt, we have to adjust, and we have to do the best we can to manage this play. It's not an easy play to manage with those two players so far, off the sideline. But we've got to have some eyes on those two players so that we don't miss, some potential personal foul or something that's flagrant or something. Really tough job here for the line judge, but a couple points, like I said, to make. We'll try to do your best to officiate this play. Play number 4, punt play. A lot of times on these punt plays, we need to prepare to look for those blindside blocks. And we're going to see on this play, our crew does a great job. We have multiple flags down. Our first one will be right here on this player, right here about the 30-yard line. You'll see him commit a blindside block right there. Back it up, take a look at it. You can see it is definitely a blindside block, no doubt about it. Totally supported. And then we're going to see our second one right here on this play in a dark colored jersey, right about 26, comes up and delivers the second blindside block on this play. Again, great job. You'll see flags down for multiple officials on this play. Good job here. Way to, be officiating your area on a punt return. And a good job here as we see our back judge coming up to help cover that out of bounds spot. Play 4 this week, we are going to have a punt that goes out of bounds on the line judge side of the field. First, let's focus on our line judge I've highlighted here. The line judge, prior to the snap and during the snap on this play, is communicating with the ball person, I believe. And yes, we want to have effective and quality communication with our ball personnel on these plays, but not right prior to the snap and not during the snap. It takes our attention off of what could happen on the field, and that's where our primary focus needs to be. So tell the ball personnel if you need to communicate with them, after this play, or come speak to me. I need to speak to you, and give them instructions. Then don't get distracted by them right during the snap or prior to the snap. Now, I want to point out the location of the punter, and something that I have learned as a referee. I stay close enough to the punter so that when we have an out of bounds kick, I go to the spot where the punter started. See where the punter is. I walk to that spot, observe the action in front of me, but also walk to that spot. And I think it helps to improve my accuracy of spotting the out of bounds spot. Something I do. If you have something else you do, that's fine, but just a recommendation. So as we see here, the ball is punted out of bounds on the line judge side of the field. We see it hot back here, maybe about the 35-yard line out of bounds. So now we have to have that spot of out of bounds spotting, and we don't want our line judge looking up in the air, okay, for the ball. So what does the line judge do? Well, as indicated here by the arrow, we want the line judge to go beyond what they might think is the spot. If it's 10, 15 yards beyond, go beyond the spot, turn around, put your hand up in the air. You're going to turn back around, hand up in the air, and face the referee and start coming up the sideline. You can jog up the sideline a little bit and keep your eyes on the referee. And when you get to the correct spot, the referee should have their hand up in the air, and they should chop you in, so to speak, at the correct bound spot. So it's you and the referee working together and communicating. Now, remember, we use radios here in our association, so we can get on the radio and give, some instructions. But what we don't want to happen here is we could see our line judge begins to look up in the air for the ball. Remember, line judge, you have officiating players on the field of play. Allow the referee to get the out of bounds spot. You go beyond the spot, turn around, come back, referee chops you in, and that will be our spot of the out of bounds spot. So use those mechanics, and those are the proper mechanics. Play 5 this week. I always like it when we do great out of bounds officiating or dead ball officiating. We're going to have a play here that goes to the head linesman side of the field. The quarterback's going to scramble, goes out of the head linesman side of the field, and goes out of bounds. And as we know, an opponent in the opposing team's out of bounds area is always a concern. We see our head linesman come down to the spot, and it looks like to me he reaches and grabs his beanbag to drop his beanbag for the forward progress spot. Good job there by the head linesman of getting his beanbag out. Okay, great job. That's what we want to do, is mark that spot. Now, our head linesman will next proceed into the team bench area to go after our quarterback, basically, and get him out of that area and protect them. Awesome job here. We got the spot. We got a beanbag down. We go in. We know that can lead to a volatile situation. We can also see our other officials, our back judge officially hustling up to get in there to help. We have our referee moving that way, and we'll see our umpire also moving that way. Because if you look, that's where all our players are almost at on that, side of the field, third of the field on the visiting side. So good job there, closing down in, making our presence felt, and officiating this play at dead ball area in the opponent's sideline. Now, line judge, just one little quick tip here. If you're the line judge here, you want to try to get the forward progress spot, number one. I also think that you should be coming on the field more to kind of two things. One, observe action over there, but also get off that sideline to make your presence felt, and also keep an eye for potential of any players coming off the opposing team's bench, the home side here. Just come on the field a little bit, and that will help. Play 6, we're going to talk about specifically illegal equipment, which is covered under Rule 153. And I want to talk about the two players I've highlighted, and specifically the towels that they're wearing. And I ask you the question is, are these legal and legal by color? Now, obviously, this video may not show us the true color of these towels, but they do catch your eye. And when we go to Rule 1 and it states uniform equipment, and we talk about they're allowed to have one moisture observing solid colored towel that is not ball or penalty flag colored. As we look here, it has the appearance that it could potentially be penalty flag colored. So if we deem that to be penalty flag colored, this towel would not be legal. All right, play 7 this week is a good play. We're going to talk about several things. It's actually an extra point play. We're going to talk about a number of things. So first of all, I want you to identify the snapper here I have highlighted. Notice he has his hands already on the ball. And why is that important? Editorial change this rule in Rule 7 states that once the snapper puts his hands on the ball, players on the line of scrimmage in between the ends are ineligible and remain ineligible. So we as officials on the field, when we see this, we have to identify players who are ineligible on this play if they shift or run something other type of play other than a scrimmage kick. So we have to know that, because in this play you're going to see them shift, and so we have to know if they started out ineligible, they remain ineligible. The other part about this play that's good is Rule 2, formations. States a scrimmage kick formation. To be able to use the numbering exception, we have to have a holder on one knee 7 or more yards behind snapper, which we have here, and then we have to have another player 3 yards or less behind that holder in position to make a kick. We do. We have the holder on a knee. We have the kicker there. So they can use the numbering exception on this play. If that players weren't there in that position, a holder on a knee and a kicker, then they could not use the numbering exception. So it's important to identify that. So 2 things on this play already that we need to identify. And as we shift, you'll see them shift over into the traditional scrimmage kick formation. We're going to focus now on the defensive player here I have highlighted on the arrow in his actions. And we're going to talk about his actions. As you see him, he hurdles. So what is hurdling? Hurdling is an attempt by a player to jump or hurdle with one or both feet or knees foremost over an opponent who is contacting the ground with no part of his body except one or both feet. And so we can't really see the player he hurdles over real well here, but it really looks to me like a good call by the umpire here, gets the marker down. And I'm also potentially this player hurdled over our snapper, it looks like potentially. So you could have possibly be supported with a roughing the snapper, but this is definitely hurdling. Good call here by the umpire. This play, you can see right there, his left knee actually goes over top of the back of the player. Now, they can go through the gap, but it does not look like he goes through the gap, although we're not looking down the field. We're looking from an angle, but it looks like a good call here and supported. Play, we're going to talk about formation, and this is 1st and 10, 20-yard line right after kickoff. And our player I've highlighted is the snapper. His number is 28. And so why is that important? Well, even though they're not lined up in our traditional formation, we still have to have 5 players, 50 through 79 on the line of scrimmage. And I'm going to read those numbers off because it'll be hard to see them that I've highlighted here by the indicated arrows. From the line judge side, we have 76, 65, 72, 70, and 60. So we do have 5 players, 50 through 79, on the line of scrimmage. And so a couple things I want to talk about here on this play. So this is not our traditional formation that we see commonly, but we could see this in a game or something else. Um, and so we have to think about, what are we going to do here? Are we going to stay on our normal positions like our umpire? Umpire is normally in the middle field, as I've highlighted here. But should our umpire shift any towards that side of the field? Should the umpire stay, in front of the center on this play? Because we have 7 players over there on the line judge's side of the field. And so this puts the line judge here, as indicated, with 7 players on the offense right in front of him. And so do we make any adaptations, adjust any as our positioning as officials, or do we stay in our traditional spots? How are we going to officiate this play? And this ends up being a pass play on the line judge side of the field to the end here, who is eligible, and that does have an eligible number. But when we see these types of formations, and we are seeing formations where teams are coming up with different types of formations, we need to be ready to determine, who's eligible, who's ineligible. Do we have a legal formation? Do we have appropriate numbering? And all those things come into play, before the snap and during the snap, so to be ready to officiate these play correctly. Some plays like this is something to look at and talk about to get right. Play 9 this week is going to be a good play to discuss. And so we look here by the line. It looks like we're spotting the ball or snapping the ball from the 15-yard line. And I believe the box is 2nd down and 15 on this play. And we will come back to that in a minute. Our focus will be on these 2 players right here I've highlighted. And we're going to get great flags down by both our line judge and our back judge. As we see here, the defensive player clearly pulls the receiver down to the ground. The flags come in. Great job, no doubt about it. This is definitely, a foul, and we definitely want to get our markers down, and we get 2 of them down. So great job, no problem there. We can see the contact right here. He's holding before the pass is released. That contact seems to continue with the ball's in the air and pulls him down. And I want to point out that the ball actually comes down, and it looks like it hits one of these 2 players that are on the ground where the foul is. So the ball's thrown in that area. And so I just want to point out our possible question here, as we see the ball ends up getting moved 10 yards from the previous spot to the 25-yard line. So I would assume that we had a holding call, which, like I said, totally supported, no doubt about it. But could we convert this on this play based upon the fact the foul occurred in the area where the ball was thrown to? Could we take this holding call, even though that's our initial flag? Could we convert it to a defensive pass interference? I think that's totally supported, that we could convert, come together, discuss it, and say, hey, I initially had holding, but we're going to convert this to a defensive pass interference because of the ball being thrown in that area. Actually, it looks like it hits one of the players. So totally support the holding call here, totally support the flag, but just take a minute and discuss it and see if you can convert it to a DPI on a play like this. And I totally think that's supported too. Play 10 this week, we're going to have a pass play, and we get a really good job here by our back judge of getting a marker down on the field on this play. Our focus will be on those 2 players I have highlighted. We're going to see the hit take place right here after an incomplete pass, ball thrown to the receiver. His focus is on ball, and he gets hit by the defensive player, who, begins to celebrate that hit. And as you can see right here, this is not part of the game. This is an illegal hit. You could definitely support a defenseless player here. As I said, you could support illegal helmet contact. You could definitely support targeting on this play, because this hit, as we'll see as a close-up here by the defensive player, is above the shoulders, involving the helmet right there, contact to the defenseless player. You can see him come up with his right arm. Can't see, with that, if there's contact there entirely. But definitely, like I said, we definitely have a foul in this play. Good job by the back judge. Multiple things could be supported here. You could even discuss the possibility of, was this potentially flagrant on this play? Not a bad conversation to have on a hit like this, but this is no part of football per the rules of today. And we definitely want to get our markers down and appropriately penalize this type of play or hit on a player. Good job. That concludes our week 10 video for this week. Hope this video or information in it is helpful to you in officiating your next game. Feel free to hit the like button if you wish or comment below. Thanks everyone, and until next video, have a great game this week.